The key scrapes in the lock, a harsh, metallic sound that slices through the stunned silence of the hallway. My mother-in-law, Carol, pushes the door open wider, her smile a thin, cruel line. Behind her, Frank, my father-in-law, stands with his arms crossed, a human barricade. And next to him, Mark, my husband or soon-to-be ex-husband apparently, avoids my gaze, staring at a point somewhere over my shoulder. 3 faces, once sources of comfort, now a tribunal of smug satisfaction. My suitcase, hastily packed with a few essentials they deemed permissible for me to take, sits by the door, a pathetic symbol of my banishment. The air is thick with unspoken accusations and the cloying scent of Carol's rose-scented air freshener, a scent I used to find homely, now suffocating. This is it. This is the moment they throw me out. The walls of the house, our house, seem to lean in, listening. If you've ever felt the ground crumble beneath your feet, that sickening lurch of betrayal from the ones you trusted most, tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It means more than you can imagine, knowing someone out there is listening. Just 6 months ago, this hallway echoed with laughter. Mark and I had finally bought it, this sprawling suburban dream. 2 stories, a big yard for the dog we planned to get, a kitchen island I'd already covered in flour more times than I could count. It was perfect. Carol and Frank had been ecstatic for us, or so I thought. They'd helped us move in, oohing and awing over every room. "You've done so well, both of you," Carol had cooed, patting Mark's arm while giving me a tight, appraising smile. Mark had preened, puffing his chest out. "Yeah, we really landed on our feet with this one." He'd conveniently forgotten to mention whose feet had done the heavy financial lifting. I'd always been careful with money, a habit instilled by my grandmother who'd left me a surprisingly substantial trust fund. "For a rainy day, my girl," she'd whispered on her deathbed, or for building a fortress. I hadn't told Mark the full extent of it. Not out of distrust, not then, but because it was my safety net, my quiet secret. When we found this house, slightly out of our combined reach, if we relied only on our salaries, I saw my chance to build that fortress a home. I liquidated a significant portion of the fund, enough to buy the property outright, putting it in my name as a sole owner. I told Mark I'd received an unexpected inheritance from a distant relative, a vague enough explanation that he accepted without too many questions, too thrilled by the prospect of owning such a place. Our dream home, he'd called it, and I'd let the "our" slide, because in my heart, it truly was. For us. The bombshell dropped on a Tuesday. I came home from work, humming a little tune, planning to surprise Mark with tickets to a concert he wanted to see. He was waiting in the living room, his face pale, a sheaf of papers clutched in his hand. "I've filed for divorce, Sarah," he said, the words flat, devoid of emotion. Just like that. No argument, no warning signs I'd recognized, just a guillotine dropping on a decade of my life. I remember sinking onto the sofa, the concert tickets fluttering from my numb fingers. The air rushed out of my lungs. "Why?" I managed to choke out. He just shook his head, muttering something about irreconcilable differences, about needing space, about not being happy. It was a script, cold and rehearsed. The next few days were a blur of tears and disbelief. I tried to talk to him, to understand. He remained distant, almost a stranger. Then his parents started calling. Carol's voice, usually dripping with false sweetness, turned sharp, accusatory. "You need to respect Mark's decision, Sarah. This is hard on him too." Frank was blunter. "He needs to move on. And frankly, so do you. You should start looking for somewhere else to live, somewhere else." This was my home. The initial shock wore off, replaced by a gnawing anxiety. I called a lawyer, a friend of a friend. She listened patiently, her voice a calm anchor in my storm. "Okay," she said. "First things first. Whose name is on the deed of the house?" When I told her it was solely mine, a different kind of silence fell on the line then. "Well, that certainly changes things, doesn't it?" But before I could even process that, Mark escalated. He moved into the guest room, a silent, brooding presence in the house. His parents started visiting daily, their presence a constant, suffocating pressure. They'd walk through the rooms, Carol occasionally picking things up, inspecting them, then putting them down with a little sniff, as if my very presence had tainted them. They'd have hushed conversations with Mark in the kitchen, their voices dropping whenever I entered. I felt like an intruder in my own home. They started making subtle comments, then not so subtle ones. Mark needs his space to heal, Sarah. It's best if you're not here. This is really his family home, you know. He grew up just down the street. The sheer audacity of it was breathtaking. One evening, I found them in the living room, Mark, Carol, and Frank, a united front. Carol was holding a piece of paper. "We've spoken to our lawyer," she announced, her voice triumphant. "And since Mark intends to keep the house, and since you're clearly not contributing to its upkeep anymore," she trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. "It's best if you leave by the end of the week." To make it easier for everyone, Mark nodded mutely, still avoiding my eyes. My blood ran cold. The sheer nerve. The utter betrayal. It wasn't just Mark. It was his entire family, people I'd shared holidays with, confided in, cared for. They were all in on it. That night, sleep was impossible. I lay in bed, the silence of the house pressing down on me. Their words echoed in my mind. His family home, keep the house, my house. Bought with my money. The money my grandmother had wanted me to use to build a fortress. And here I was, about to be evicted from it by people who had no right, no claim, nothing but a monumental sense of entitlement. A slow anger began to burn through the hurt and confusion. A cold, clear anger. They thought I was weak, a pushover, someone they could easily discard. They'd miscalculated. Badly. The next morning, I didn't cry. I didn't plead. I drank my coffee, black and strong, and I made a phone call to my lawyer. "They're trying to kick me out," I said, my voice steady. "They think the house is theirs." My lawyer was quiet for a moment. "Right," she said, a hint of something that sounded like satisfaction in her voice. "Let's get the official paperwork drawn up." "The real paperwork," she explained the process. "An eviction notice. 30 days, legally." But given the circumstances, she mentioned something about egregious behavior and misrepresentation we could expedite. I told her about their deadline for me. End of the week. She chuckled, a dry, humorless sound. "Oh, we can do better than that." The plan was simple, brutal, and entirely legal. While they were busy congratulating themselves on their cleverness, I was gathering my documents. The deed, the bank statements tracing the trust fund money directly to the house purchase. Every piece of paper a nail in the coffin of their arrogance. My lawyer prepared an immediate notice to vacate, citing fraudulent claims to property and harassment. It was aggressive, but so was their behavior. The day they chose for my grand exit arrived. This morning, Carol and Frank were there early, ostensibly to help Mark through this difficult transition. I saw them through the window, Carol fussing over the rose bushes I'd planted, Frank appraising the guttering with a proprietary air. Mark was pacing the driveway, talking animatedly on his phone, probably to his own lawyer, spinning his tale of woe. The audacity was a physical blow. They were acting like they'd already won. And that brings us back to the hallway. My suitcase by the door. Carol's smug smile. Frank's immovable stance. Mark's cowardly avoidance. "Well, Sarah," Carol says, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "I suppose this is goodbye. Don't worry about Mark, we'll take good care of him. And the house." I look at them, really look at them. The three architects of my heartbreak, so confident in their victory. A small, cold smile touches my own lips. It's almost a pity to shatter their little illusion. Almost. "Actually, Carol," I say, my voice surprisingly calm even. "I don't think it is goodbye for me. Not from here, anyway." Carol's smile falters. Frank uncrosses his arms. Mark finally looks at me, a flicker of unease in his eyes. "What are you talking about, Sarah?" Mark asks, his voice sharper now. I reach into my handbag, not for a tissue, but for a crisp, legal-sized envelope. I pull out the documents my lawyer had couriered over an hour ago. "This house," I begin, my voice gaining strength with every word. was not bought with our money, Mark. It wasn't bought with your savings or a loan we co-signed or a generous gift from your parents. I let my gaze sweep over their confused faces. It was bought with my money. Every single penny. From a trust fund my grandmother left me. A trust fund you knew nothing about. I hold up the deed, clearly showing my name, and only my name, as the sole proprietor. This house is mine, Mark. Legally, unequivocally mine. The silence in the hallway is no longer stunned on my part. It's theirs. Carol's face pales, her mouth falling slightly open. Frank looks like he's been punched. Mark just stares, his eyes wide with a dawning horror. What is this? He stammers, reaching for the papers. That, I say, pulling them back slightly before handing a separate set of documents to him, is a copy of the deed. And this, I present the other envelope, the one addressed to all three of them, is an official, legally binding eviction notice. For all of you. Carol gasps. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm perfectly serious, I reply, the cold anger now a shield, impenetrable. You have 24 hours to vacate my property. Considering your recent behavior, your attempts to unlawfully remove me, and the emotional distress caused, my lawyer was quite confident in securing an expedited order. Mark looks from the papers to me, his face a mask of disbelief and dawning fury. You tricked me? You lied to me. A humorless laugh escapes me. Tricked you?
Lied?
Mark, you served me with divorce papers without a word of warning. You and your parents conspired to throw me out of what you thought was your house, with less than a week's notice. Who tricked whom, exactly? Frank steps forward, his face red. Now see here, young lady. No, Frank, you see here. I cut him off, my voice like ice. You are trespassing. And if you're not all off my property by noon tomorrow, I will have the sheriff escort you out, along with your son. Carol starts to sputter something about lawyers, about fighting this. Go ahead, I say, gesturing towards the door with a chilling calm. Call your lawyer. Show him these. He'll explain it to you. The same way mine explained it to me. I pick up my suitcase, the one they'd so callously packed for me. Actually, I say, a thought striking me, don't bother unpacking that for me, Mark. But you three might want to start packing your own things. Immediately, I walk past them into the living room, my living room. The air still smells faintly of Carol's roses, but now it's mixed with the metallic tang of vindication. I can hear their panicked whispers behind me, the rustle of papers, Mark's strangled cry of, "She can't do this." Oh, but I can. And I have. The next 24 hours are a blur of frantic activity. Theirs, not mine. I sit on my sofa, a cup of tea in hand, and watch as they scurry. There are slammed doors, raised voices, tearful phone calls. Carol tries to appeal to my better nature, once, her eyes red-rimmed. I just look at her, my expression unreadable, until she retreats. Mark attempts a furious confrontation, full of accusations and self-pity. I simply point to the eviction notice taped to the refrigerator. By 10 a.m. the next day, a moving truck, hastily rented, is backing into my driveway. The smugness is gone, replaced by a sullen, bitter resentment. As the last of their boxes are loaded, Mark turns to me one final time, standing on the porch of the house he thought was his. You'll regret this, Sarah, he spits. No, Mark, I say softly, meeting his gaze without flinching. I think the only regret I have is not realizing who you truly were sooner. He storms off to the truck. Carol and Frank don't even look at me. And then they're gone. The truck rumbles down the street, taking with it a decade of my life, but also a mountain of deceit. The silence they leave behind is profound. It's not empty, though. It's clean. I walk through the rooms, my rooms. The scent of Carol's roses is fading. I open a window, letting in the fresh air. It's quiet, peaceful. My fortress stands. It took a betrayal to show me its true strength, and mine. The trust fund my grandmother left wasn't just money. It was a legacy of independence, a final gift of empowerment. She always knew. The victory is bittersweet, A marriage has died. Trust has been irrevocably broken. But as I stand in the quiet solitude of my home, truly my own, there's also a sense of profound, unshakable peace. And a steely resolve. No one will ever try to take what's mine again without knowing exactly who they're dealing with. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to find your own strength in the face of betrayal, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Thanks for being here with me through this. Subscribing helps bring more of these stories to life. Stories of resilience and sometimes of turning the tables when you least expect it.